everybody. Welcome to Be Bold Branding. I'm Tonya Eberhart, founder of BrandFace, where we help business owners and entrepreneurs differentiate themselves, and we do that through personal branding.
Hi, folks. I'm Michael Carr. I'm the COO of BrandFace. I was a client before I became a partner in the company, and we're the only comprehensive personal brand building system across the globe. Thank you for joining us. We've got a fantastic show for you here today.
Guys, we're so excited to welcome back one of our favorite guests from 2019, Miss Karen Briscoe. We loved our session with you last time so much, Karen, that Michael's going to fill you in on not only why we invited you back, but what else we've been doing in your name. Are you a little worried?
Oh, I'm thrilled. Bring it on.
All right. So Karen's known for her 5-minute success series, which is designed to help you achieve success in literally 5 minutes a day or less by making the right choices. She's also the author of Real Estate Success in 5 Minutes a Day, Commit to Get Leads, the 66-Day Challenge, Flip Time, Love Life, A Heroine's Journey, and recently the author of a movement called 80 by 80, which we're going to hear more about today.
So welcome, Miss Karen. I have a little surprise for you that you don't know. We did our Think conference last year, and we bought books for everybody, your books, specifically the 66-Day Challenge. And then I loved it so much. I've also been, I do a 9 a.m. sales call every morning with all of the agents. And then we also record them, and we've been going through it chapter by chapter and been really living the Karen Briscoe life. And
wow.
So everybody has loved it. I love the book. I think that it's dead on if a real estate agent wants to really get started in a path that's linear and shows them what to do. It's a fantastic book. It's a great, easy read, and it's excuseless if real estate is really what you want to do. So I want to thank you first off for supporting our Think conference last year with that book, and let you know that we are going through it. So.
Well, I appreciate that. And the brilliant thing about the 66-Day Challenge is it really often does, jumpstart or kickstart people. And the idea of lead generation, though, isn't just for 66 days, right?
That's right.
Yeah, it's a habit you want to keep for the life of your business. And so I think that's a brilliant strategy. Actually, that is a lot of how the whole Real Estate Success in 5 Minutes a Day and the Commit to Get Leads came about. Was this idea of daily habits is very powerful. And you can make, in some ways, more impact by doing small things very well every day than trying to do, 1 or 2 big things.
I would agree with that 100%. My grandfather always said, good habits are just as hard to break as bad ones. And so if you start off with that right foot, you commit to doing it, then that is the key, right? You know that better than anybody. Committing and sticking to it, that's the secret. So.
And the whole habit formation, the 66 days is really, a lot of research shows the reason why that number of days, because the first 22 days, I don't know if you've experienced this with your group, but a lot of people are very evangelistic when they first, decide they're going to do a new program, or if, maybe it's the Whole 30, or the get a Peloton or whatever. What happens in the next 22 days or 3 weeks or whatever is people start to think, do I really want to do this? I mean, that's where the commitment comes in, right, Michael? I mean, you commit to it, and particularly if you're committing with a group, you're more likely to stick through it and power through it, because it's like Seth Godin talks about in The Dip. A lot of times, people go through a dip in their business or their life or setting up a good habit. The ones you want to power through are the ones that are going to bring benefit to you. And we all know lead generation, business development, prospecting is the way to go for a successful, sustainable business. And then that last 22 days or the final portion of the 66 days is where people do start to experience the benefits of the habit. Mm-hmm. And then they want to do more and they want to sustain it. And so then it becomes what they call automaticity, which is like brushing your teeth, right? You don't think about it anymore. You do it. And right. That's what we want to create, that habit in our lead generation, and what you're doing with your team, I think is I commend you for it, and I appreciate you for it.
Yeah, well, we appreciate you too, because it's really helped get a lot of people on track with the group. So thank you for that. And that's going to lead us into what's going to be a great conversation with you today. The first question we have for you is, what's the boldest thing you've ever done in your business?
Wow, the boldest thing in my business. So when the market was correcting rapidly in the 08, 09 years, I had taken over the business of a really upper bracket agent and was very heavily advertising based, driven, and print advertising. And there was this one particular ad that was the back cover of the magazine, glossy magazine, at $5,000 a month. So $5,000 a month is a big nut when nothing's coming in, right? And so I went to the publisher and I said, you know, what is my obligation here? And he said, oh, you really aren't a month to month. You can cancel at any time. And so I called him and I canceled. And I was really the first kind of upper bracket luxury agent to make that bold move in our marketplace. It really was for that particular marketing piece. I had gone on a listing appointment and I had sold the advertising to the client. And when I went back to him and said, I'm no longer advertising in this magazine. And he said, what's Elon? He didn't even know what the magazine was. So it turned out that it did not materially impact my business. I shifted to other marketing that was much more effective. But I really was a trailblazer in our market area. That I was the first one to not depend on that type of advertising for business development, lead generation.
That's not only bold, it's pretty scary, isn't it?
Yes, because that's what I thought was generating the business.
Right.
Because that's what I'd come out of, right? And so if you don't know any differently, then you assume that past performance is what's going to predict future results. I just knew that the future results were going to have to occur on activity-based lead generation and prospecting rather than marketing-based that was very heavily expense related. Because there's a lot of other marketing you could do that wasn't that level of expense. And so, but also being the first one in the market, because what I was concerned about is that, you know, out of sight, out of mind, I would then make it appear that I wasn't in business anymore.
Yep. That was a bold move. We did it with Zillow years and years ago. We were very heavily involved with that type of a platform. And I don't really have anything against it. I just, Tonya was part of the decision. We made that bold decision to move more towards activity based, because we're like, okay, you know, we can spend a lot of money like this, but they still are controlling. And we found that it was a dollar in, dollar out, and there's lots better ROI than that. And so we did the same thing. It was a pretty bold move and never affected us at all. Activity based, as your book says, is really the main key and should never be abandoned, even when you start making enough money to spend big money on advertising.
Yeah, I look at marketing as air cover. I mean, it really is good for general name recognition and ID in the marketplace. And, you know, the whole, I see your picture on the side of the road everywhere is really powerful, right? Because it does show market share. At the same time, I have found that you can make way more impact by daily lead generation prospecting activities, that there really isn't enough marketing dollars to make up for that. It really isn't. I haven't seen anybody do it. I don't know if have you seen anybody do it?
No. And you know, BrandFace is all about being out there and being recognized and differentiating yourself. And for that reason, you know, so even on those minute things, those activity-based things, you also have that leg up to be able to be seen and remembered, right? Which is so very, very important. But no, I would agree with you 100%. There are people that can spend enough money to sway a market, but it's not, like you said, it's not $1 in, $5 out. Like there is no platform like that. There's none.
Yeah, I don't see it as being sustainable. And I do agree about having a consistent brand though, because the recognition of the marketplace is key, because I've seen people switch companies or switch up their brand so much, or I think creativity. I'm sure you've seen the pyramid where, you should start with the pyramid with the base be the fundamentals, and then the creativity is on the top. So many people like the creativity is, upside down, right?
Yes.
And it's so creative that people don't recognize what the brand is, because every time is a new rendition or version. And so that part of it is a key element, because then when you are doing the activities of the lead generation and prospecting, you have that air cover.
Yes.
Right. And that's a lot of Super Bowl ads, by the way. The majority of Super Bowl ads are turned upside down. They're so super creative because the creators are hung up on one thing. Let's give them a Super Bowl ad they'll remember. And the creativity portion of it is something they'll remember. They just don't connect it to the business.
They don't connect.
Yes. $5 million to air the ad.
And does it really actually sell whatever it is that they're...
Right. Sometimes they don't even connect it with what type of business or what it is at all. But even if they do connect it to that, they still don't connect it with, why should I choose that business instead of its 1,500 other competitors? Yeah. So those things make a huge difference when you flip that pyramid upside down and go creativity first. You've got to be very careful how you do that. Your creativity should only be creative enough to express what sets you apart in the first place. Mm-hmm. And so that was a great call on that one, Karen. So the next question is, if you could only do one thing to grow your business, just one, which is a great segue from the conversation we just had, one thing to grow your business, aside from super serving your existing clients, what would that one thing be?
Constantly filling the pipeline with new potential clients. The business is, but this is really true of other businesses. Like, for example, and some people don't consider this a business, but our church, we have attrition, we have people that move, we have death, we have all sorts of change going on all the time. There has to be a constant flow of new in, and it's the community is alive and vibrant when it's flowing. I mean, you could use the Dead Sea as an analogy, right? There's no inflow, there's no outflow, so it dies. So the constant inflow of new business and new leads, new opportunities, because, well, the market is always changing, whether you decide to change or not. It's changing, right? The demographics of the buyers and sellers are changing. There's so many aspects that we don't have any control over, but what we do have control over is the flow of the business and the prospecting that we do. So even after 17 years in the business, every week I seek to make new contacts and new touches. And there's several ways that we do that. One is, just the classic networking. I'm at a chamber event and I meet somebody new and I add them to my database and I send them a note. We have a charity event every month. And so we're constantly meeting new people at that charity event that then we're putting in the pipeline and making those connections and touches to. So we're purposeful about that, but looking for other opportunities. So we're seeing a major demographic shift with the silver tsunami. The population, there's 10,000 baby boomers turning 65 every day. That's going to be a huge shift in housing. I got my senior real estate specialist, and we recently did a senior seminar at our church, recognizing that there's a way to serve that community. So I would just say that is a key aspect to any successful business. I mean, a dental practice or a local florist, or, everybody has to be looking for a way to reach and bring in new clientele.
Mm-hmm. That's agreed. And people don't realize if they run just a one-person shop like real estate can be, that is so vitally important to your lifeline. But it doesn't matter if you're a Fortune 10 company, it's the same problem. Like, you constantly have to be renewing that opportunity or moving into some emerging market constantly. It's something that you never really take your eyes off of. It shouldn't, if you want longevity. And the greatest salespeople on earth are constantly rebuilding that pipeline, no matter how much business they have.
Yeah, I use the Wayne Gretzky quote where he skates to where the puck is going. I say we should always be going to where the market is going. Yep. In the correcting market, we went to the short sales and foreclosures market, right? Yeah. And so I mean, that's not really prevalent right now. So people that built their entire business on that had to evolve, or they didn't survive. And so, and then you have the flippers, and then you all these different market segments, but to recognize what the trends are and the opportunities, and always be working to build that clientele and bringing that base in. Yep.
Now, we have a lot of people that watch this podcast right here, and you've dealt with a lot of agents, new agents coming on, things like that, entrepreneurs. You're an entrepreneurial person, and they have fears about how bold to be about their brand or putting themselves out there. They may be concerned with things like, intimidated by their competitors, or what are my competitors going to think? Or they're fearful about what people would think if they put their face, their story out there, and they really just, go all in. What's your advice to that? What's your advice to those types of fears?
Well, I actually had very similar reservations. My father, when I was a kid growing up in the small town I grew up in, was a restaurateur, and everybody knew who my father was. He had these commercials where my uncle would throw a pie in his face. So everybody knew who Kid Gilbert was. So I couldn't go anywhere. And my son, when he left for college, he goes, he said, "I'm glad you decided to wait to be successful until I left town." So I made a decision to use my photo in my marketing. Now, I know that there's a lot of brand strategy about to make the brand not be the person, so that then it is, corporate's not the right word, but it's more universal appeal, so other team members feel like they can connect to it. And I chose the name, and because it's often very personal, the relationships, and I use my face. So I had a client call me really kind of distressed a few years ago, and she says, "Karen, I need a new sign." And I was like, "Well, so Jeannie, what happened?" And she goes, "I'm so embarrassed. I can't believe what happened." And I'm like, "Okay, well, did it get hit by a car, whatever?" And she said, "No, my son's used it for paintball practice." Oh, there you go, Michael. I've already been used for paintball practice, so it really doesn't go any lower than that.
That's great.
I think that there is a lot of things that hold people back. I mean, myself included. I mean, one is the imposter syndrome. There oftentimes people are concerned that, if they put themselves out there and then, they get hired and then they aren't successful, they're going to get fired. And I know the first few times that happened to me, I took it very personally. Particularly if it's someone it's very, that's very human. That's a very human response. I would suggest watching the movie You've Got Mail, and the line where Meg Ryan is asking the character about, what should I do about my business? And he says, go to the mattresses. It's not personal, it's business. So maybe compartmentalize isn't the right word. I recognize that people make decisions for their life and their sale of their home, and they're based on things that may not have anything to do. Usually what I found is it usually isn't personal. It really isn't. So right. I don't take it personally. I choose not to. It's a choice. And I choose to release people to the universe to allow them to do what they feel is the right thing for them. That being said, I'm very competitive in nature, and so I go after the business. But then because I don't take it personally when it doesn't happen, I can release it. And then, you have that old saying in the real estate world, sometimes you want to be the firstborn, and sometimes you want to be the second wife, and sometimes you want to be the third realtor.
That's exactly right. I tell my trainees all the time, I'm like, look, you want to be the first person in the door, you want to be the last person in the door. You don't want to be anywhere in the middle if you can help it, right? If you're the first one, you tell them everything and everybody else is repeating you. If you're the last one, you tell them how everybody else is wrong and you're the right one, right? So, but the best revenge is and I love these deals when they happen. They no doubt have happened to you when you lose a listing presentation and then you're the selling agent on the property. It's the greatest feeling ever. Because you could have, made both sides of that commish if they had listened to you, but they still see you on the other side of the table as the person that sold the house like you said you would. So that in my small town, we get to pull that off on a regular basis. So that's always nice too.
Oh, well, also if you're the first agent isn't successful because they didn't listen, right? Or they weren't responding to the market correctly. And then because of that, they recognize, oh, you really were telling me what the market was saying. And so then they decide to hire you. I've had that happen many times too. The main thing for me is that whatever happens, I know I have done everything that I can do. And when I've done everything that I can do, then I release it because I'm not tied to the outcome that way. Yes. I'm tied to the performance indicators that I have control over. And that is my presentation skills and my market knowledge and my ability to influence people to make decisions. I am not tied to what they decide. So my identity and my feelings about myself and my business aren't tied to what they decide. And when I find that then, well, first of all, I feel way better about me, which is huge.
That is huge.
But and who's more productive? A person who feels confident and good about themselves, right? So sometimes we're our own worst enemy.
I love what you said, Karen, about releasing people to the universe. I picked that up right away and I thought, oh, what a beautiful way of stating that. It's just like you can't control someone else's decision. You can only control the information and the resources and the nurturing you give them to try to make that decision, but you can't control the end result, and you just got to release it. And releasing them to the universe is an awesome way of saying it.
It's a positive, it really is a positive attraction in a way, because
it is.
What I find, that's very bold. It really is, because what I found I used to do, and I see other people do, is they're so tied to that deal, right? And they're just like, they're so tied to the person making that decision. And then when it doesn't go their way, then everything just gets all, well, they get distracted by it, but then they lose the energy. It really is energy is the performance. It is the key to high performance. So it is very energizing to take the positive approach of releasing, than to, again, wait till you respond based on what somebody else decides to do. You're putting your life in somebody else's control, actually, when that happens, when I allow that to happen or other people allow that to happen.
That's very true.
Agree. I've got a good friend that taught me years ago out of Walnut Creek, California. She said, my dad used to tell me all the time, you can never lose what you never had. And so I also teach my agents that too, because it's good to go in there, like you said, with the things that you can control. Did you nail the price point? Did you have a good presentation? Can you communicate with them? Can you get to the problem? Can you distinguish the difference in needs and wants? Like, can you work with that person? And if they choose that they need to work with somebody else, you've done everything that you can do, and you haven't lost anything. You didn't have it. And then also, it's how many times, and you see this all the time too, you leave that behind and you think, well, they'll never call me again, and they're the first ones to call you. Or they call you, like you said earlier, down the road, and they realize, you know what, maybe they try somebody else. And they say, nah, that's not what I want. So there's a million different ways. And like you said, if you don't let any of that bog you down, you're just moving towards the next one. and then you let the rest of it come to you as it's supposed to. That's the best way to build your business, for sure, and not be bogged down by those things that we see as negative, but they're not.
Exactly. Hey, Karen, the last question I have for you is actually, I'd like you to explain something to us before we hit the record button here. You mentioned something called 80 by 80 movement. Tell us what you mean by that.
So what I found is a lot of salespeople, real estate agents, we have a lot of high energy, but we're also busy, with a lot of things. And sometimes our health is put on the side. And so to create a momentum, if you will, the encouragement to achieve physical movement, which is, anything that you would do that would be a challenge for you. So 80 by 80 is 80 challenges by the time you turn 80. So you could do the math based on your age. So I'm 60. So that means if you do the math in 20 years, that's 4 a year. So it's very doable. The idea is to pick things that are movement related. So they can be either medals, which is like a 5K, a local 5K, or all the way up to, triathlons and marathons and beyond, or milestones. So for example, I hiked Machu Picchu with my son. And the reason why I set it up to be individual challenges is because what would be a challenge for me may not be a challenge for you. And the idea is people often say they want to be physically fit and active, and yet to keep that momentum, it's middle of February. Most New Year's resolutions are out the window now, right? So this is to create that ongoing momentum. So when you're working towards something, most likely you will then take the steps to achieve it. And the website is the number 80x80, so 80 by 80 movement. And it allows you to register your challenges. So you can upload a photo, you can put in whatever your achievement was. There are other sites that'll track races, medal-driven races, but this allows you to create your own challenges for life. And we talked the last time I was on about Flip Time, Love Life, but the idea is you want to love the life you have right now as you create and co-create the life of your dreams. And good health and fitness is a key component to that. And so that's where the 80 by 80 movement came in.
I love that. Michael and I were just talking about that the other day. We're pretty adventurous, and we love to travel, and we love to do all kinds of things, from kayaking to, hiking to skydiving.
Well, there you go.
All those kind of things. So we love those kind of things. But I said, promise me something. We'll never let each other stop moving.
Well, that's when it really all breaks down, right?
That's true. That's true.
True
and
with
you stop
anything.
dreaming, and you stop challenging yourself. Mm-hmm. And it is sometimes in the wake of business, we forsake our own health. You're absolutely right. I love the premise of the whole movement. Mm-hmm. We're doing it, Michael.
All righty. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Yeah. So it all started, I was actually my son's friends were getting married, and they wanted to do this sprint triathlon and talked me into it at 59, which was the first event I ever did. And I ended up placing the fastest in the novice category for my age group. And then that was one of them said, "Oh, you're going to do this again?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm going to be the crazy person that does 80 by 80. So that's why it stuck. But we now have an 80 by 80 podcast episode on the 5-Minute Success once a month. So highlighting stories of people that are taking on these 80 by 80 challenges.
Oh, that's great.
Hey, that's our next shot to fame, Michael. We're going to be on that podcast talking about our challenges.
Okay. There we go.
Yeah.
I love it. Anything else you want to share with everybody, Karen, how they can reach you, starting with that?
Well, yes, absolutely. In the 5-Minute Success, which is the number 5, you can find on Facebook, the website, the books are available, Real Estate Success in 5 Minutes a Day. And as you mentioned, Michael, the Commit to Get Leads 66-Day Challenge on Amazon, as is Flip Time, Love Life, which when we talked last, I was writing that book. And that is the idea. It's written as a story. It's actually told from the perspective of a mortgage lender, because I'm a real estate agent and a lot of my audience is real estate, but I wanted them to see how the story applies. Really, it's a universal story of, oh, I've achieved a lot of success. Now what? I mean, that's what happens to a lot of people. They work their way up that Maslow's hierarchy of needs pyramid, and they get to the top and they either run out of time for self-actualization, or they've put it off so long that their life isn't meaningful anymore. And this is how to flip that pyramid, how to put that first and bring that meaning back into your life and your work, so that, like I said, you love the life you have while you create and co-create the life of your dreams. It's an and, it's not an or.
I love that. So true. So true. My saying is every day is Saturday. And I intend on living that way for the rest of my life. And most people ask you, oh, you know, how can you live that way? And I'm like, I'm not going to live any other way. That's just a decision. Like you said much earlier in the podcast, you make that decision. So
it is. It's a choice.
If we work ourselves to death, make a lot of money, and then kill over the next day, we haven't done anything. Like it's a journey, right? It's not a destination. So.
And how to do that, because a lot of people, they say they want to do it, but then how do you do that? So that's where the flip time comes in, and the 80 by 80 movement. It gives you those skills, just like the 66-day challenge gives you the strategies and skills to do it.
I love it. I love it. Well, we definitely encourage everybody to reach out to Karen like that. Like I said, we believe in it. We use it with our group, and any new agent that comes in, I'll be buying those 66-day challenge books also and giving them those books so they can pick it up and run with it. And we'll look into those others also. Now, to our listeners out there, I wanted to say, if you have any questions about your brand, if you want to know what a brand is or what a brand looks like, or wondering if you have a brand or anything like that, you can always reach out to us at discussyourbrand.com. That's discussyourbrand.com, and you can book a free 30-minute session with our staff and just talk about it. And it's no obligation whatsoever, and just let us know what challenges you're looking at, or if you even have a brand that we would love to talk to you about.
And I also want to invite you guys to our Facebook group called Build Your Real Estate Brand. Karen's in the group as well, so make sure you join this. We have people standing by right now to let you in. It's called Build Your Real Estate Brand Facebook group.
All right, folks, listen, you know what we say around here. It's about prosperity. We're not just talking about money. It's everything that we talk to Karen about. It's about living the abundant life and the 360 of what that looks like in prosperity. We know that prosperity favors the bold, so we say be bold, folks, especially with your brand. And thank you, Miss Tonya.
Thank you. Thank you, Karen. It's been so nice to have you on again. You're an awesome guest, and we hope you'll come back again and again.
Absolutely. Appreciate it. Here's to your all success, too.
Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Karen.
See you next time on Be Bold Branding, everyone.